And we have finally made it to the finals. Oh my goodness, what a long, long trip this has been. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on AMC for the finals of the Connecticut Regional.
Jamie and Jorah. Yep.
And if you'll notice, we had a suggestion from a fan that I add the names of the players to the screen, so that's what I've done here. Hopefully it doesn't get in the way. So far, so good. I loved the suggestion, so thank you so much for that. And I will say that Marc did mulligan before this game started. Joe did not. Duped Tywin. Can't throw that away. And if you were wondering before how exactly Joe came about to win this game,
ready when you are.
Not to say that his play or his deck was a negative or that he didn't deserve to win, but when you start with a duped Tywin, I will say that it is difficult to lose.
I'll go first. Alrighty. Joe?
I will reiterate, I think Joe absolutely deserved to win. I think the deck was awesome. I think he played awesome. But I don't think he would disagree that a duped Tywin does not hurt. I would be ecstatic if I saw that in my opening hand of a final game of a major tournament. Absolutely. Marc's not in horrible shape. You know, anytime you can get 2 challenges out of Jamie, that's solid. So if he can get Jogo out pretty early, oh, look at that. He certainly does. So that is a good start.
Yup.
I started to talk about Drogo in the last game, and I thought of some more things I wanted to say about it. So while they're marshalling, I'm going to go ahead and talk about it now. I think unless you have a very good setup start with the military icons already on board, I don't know that it's a good idea to overcommit to try to push Drogo out early on turn 1, unless you can easily afford it. With, you know, if you have a King's Road and you have the Noble Cause and make it super easy to afford, that's one thing. But if you are struggling and stretching and trying to decide between marshalling 2 lesser characters or Drogo, I would opt for 2 lesser characters over Drogo unless you are set up to take advantage of him.
Okay.
I see a lot of players
2, 3, 4.
think that having him on the board because of that ability is automatically, you know, going to be more efficient. But if you think about it, let's say Marc did not have did not have Jamie out here and just had Jorah and Drogo. He's then going to have to commit, you know, 50% of his board to those double military challenges and leave himself open to counterattack, and I don't know that that's necessarily worth it. I think I would rather win a military challenge and then be able to defend my opponent's military challenge and get a trade that way and go 1 of their characters and none of mine versus 2 of theirs and 1 of mine, if that makes sense. That's the route I would prefer to go. So what I'm saying is don't overcommit on a single character, especially in the day and age of Milk of the Poppy, and double sure when you're going first, because hypothetically, if Marc had committed all of his resources to Drogo as first player, he could get milked, and then you're effed.
Your challenge phase. Okay.
So not only does Joe have a duped Tywin, he has a duped Seal of the Hand, just in case, you know, Marc has the Viserys out there. He could have a confiscation as well, so Joe goes ahead and throws a dupe of the seal on, and Tywin is going to be doing some work today. Joe pretty much has the dream start. He's got a duped Tywin, so he's got economy on board and stealth with a little bit of power rush and Theon. I love it. 3 gold left to maybe bounce somebody in. Maybe a burned man, we'll see. Be interesting to see if Joe opts to kill the Chud Reducer or the dupe on Tywin. Or, you know, if he's got a Burn Men in hand, I would probably opt to bounce in the Burn Men and kill that for claim, because his Reducer is the only economy he's got aside from the 2 gold from Tywin. And you shouldn't really give that up, I guess.
Oppose?
So he's opting to play very conservative, given that this is the finals. He doesn't want to have to eat 2 military claim if he doesn't have to.
I have no effects.
Okay, for now.
Yep.
And he will get double use out of Tywin. That is something that I overlooked just there. So Tywin is going to start collecting renown very quickly. So, I mean, if I'm Marc, I'm throwing a second military challenge again. Let Tywin get his power. And then you can get a free intrigue and a free power. Win dominance. I guess he wouldn't win dominance because he's got 3 gold left. So who knows what tricks he has left.
Power?
Unopposed.
Power?
Very curious to see what Joe... I mean, that's got to be on Marc's mind. That 3 gold sitting there staring him in the face.
And it's over to you for challenges.
Over to me.
I can't figure out why Marc did not do a second military challenge there. Marc, if you're listening, let us know. Did you forget? Did you opt to try to avoid the renown on Tywin? Because you essentially had a 0 drawback free military challenge that you could have done there. And I'm not sure why you didn't. I mean, yeah, there's just really no downside to him having done that.
Entry will be...
I expect the Tears of Bliss coming here. No other reason why he'd choose intrigue over military.
Before claim. Claim.
Or if he was going to be able to do the military with burn men anyways. But no tears.
Ah,
That's unfortunate for Marc.
that was the one I wanted.
He now loses the ability to get rid of the Seal of the Hand by using Viserys twice. So he probably had that in the back of his head as a backup plan to get rid of the double seal. You know, he could have marched his own Viserys and had the seal gone by the end of next turn. But that's sort of out the window now, unfortunately. So Joe opted to ambush in the burn men, but now he's sort of sitting there useless, other than potentially Dom. So he can get Drogo to kneel to defend.
Sure.
I'm not quite sure I really like this. I mean, it's essentially a meaningless challenge
Move to dominance, me.
because he's giving Marc a renown power in exchange for claiming dominance there. So, I don't know, maybe he believes in his ability to rush and put Marc on the defensive, which is certainly a legit strategy. You know, if he's willing to trade power for Marc, being able to get double renown on Tywin every turn, he's going to be able to outpace him to 15. So that could be where he's headed in his thinking.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
Okay, so we know Joe's playing first snow. I don't expect him to throw it this early because it really wouldn't hurt anybody. They would end up with roughly the same type of board. Though he would be able to use Tywin twice, so that would be a huge plus. We know Marc likes to open double Noble Cause. He has a ton of cards, so he won't throw his counting coppers here.
Okay, I'm ready when you are. Yep. I'm going to call the banners.
Alright. So, that is... I forgot that Joe was playing calling the banners. That's a legit throw.
Okay.
He needs the money. So he's going to have a ton of money. Oh my goodness. He'll have
That was the
4,
worst card show.
7, 8, 9 gold plus a reducer. Something big is coming. Marc does throw Noble Cause. See if he can get a Dany out, but he has a decent sized board. It's a pretty even match so far.
You can go first. I'm gonna take
I think
drop.
the double Drogo military challenge is sort of balancing out the Seal of the Hand Tywin. Excuse me. Drinking some coffee here. Might be a little gassy. So let's see if Marc actually gets to use his Noble Cause. And for those people paying close attention, as I mentioned before, this is a rematch of round 6 of Swiss. And Joe did win that game. So this is something that Marc needs to get used to, of rematching and making slight adjustments in the order that you throw your plots, trying to play the mental game, double bluffing. I think a rematch in a single tournament is infinitely more interesting than the original match, because you both know now what your opponent's entire plot deck is, and you sort of have to try to double bluff. You know what they have, you know what typical order they should play things in, but who knows if they will. So a reducer for Marc, and he gets a Lirio out. I don't think we saw that in any of his previous games. That will be vital in taking advantage of Drogo, being able to use characters twice. That is great. He can get double renown off of Drogo now and help try to keep pace with Tywin. It will be difficult, given Joe has yet to marshal and has a war chest of money and a bag full of tricks in that deck. We can see some... He could play the Hound and bounce him back to hand and replay him. So far, a very fun match. I did watch most of this game live. It was difficult to watch. We had been there. This tournament started a little bit late, later than usual. Usually I like to see big tournaments start around 10 a.m. This one didn't start until after 12:30. It was supposed to start at noon, but there was logistical delays. So Joe getting a draw engine out. We like that. Unfortunately, not enough money left over to replay the Hound, but we know he runs Tears, we know he runs Put to the Sword, and we know he runs Burnman. So that gold will do some work for him, along with pumping Tywin, who's now just a massive bastard at 8 strength. And Marc with a little bit of gold left too. But yeah, I wanted to apologize to everybody listening. By the time this match ended, it was close to 11 p.m. I think, and I was exhausted. And the thought of doing an aftermath segment just completely slipped my mind in all of the fanfare of Joe winning and us just, trying to commiserate with Marc and congratulating him on his performance, but giving him condolences on the losses. I just completely forgot to interview everybody. So there will be no aftermath for this. I will do my best to not forget that again in the future, but I had driven up to Connecticut about 8 or 9 hours for this tournament, and very quick turnaround. I was looking at another 8 or 9 hours to go home the next night or the next morning, so I just wanted to get home and get some sleep to my friend Bones' house. Marc gonna swing for the fences again.
It's a lot of military, buddy.
Could be.
So notice he only has 3 gold, so if he has a Put to the Sword,
14,
he cannot put to the sword and use Illyrio, because he'll need 4 gold for that. But Joe with plenty of strength to defend with the 3 gold and the Tywin buff.
I also have an action. I'm going to use the seal.
I have an action. I'm going to pay 1 to ambush in Widow's Wail on Jamie.
Okay, so we have a Widow's Wail.
On Jamie, which puts you at...
Surprise strength buff from Marc. So he is going all in on this challenge.
5, 7, makes 12, 16.
So I am noticing a trend here with Marc that he does sort of fall in love with challenges, and rather than walking away, he continues to commit to them to try to win them.
I have no reactions to winning.
So,
Okay, claim.
so he may have been swinging for the fences to
Renown.
It's a lot of renown.
to try and overcommit to get a Put to the Sword off, and we just can't see that in his hand. But on the surface, it looks a little silly. I mean, he does get triple renown, but really that resulted in not much board change there. And it's something that we've noticed from Marc throughout the tournament, that I think he commits a little bit too much, especially when he's first player. But you can't, I guess you can't argue with the results by the fact that he's sitting at the final table. So if that strategy had been working for him all day, who am I to say he's wrong to do it, right?
I'll activate Lear's ability. Sure. Stand Drogo.
So as we see, he is going to try to use Drogo to at least keep pace with Tywin's renown. He was successfully able to deny Tywin a renown by ambushing in Widow's Wail. I'm not sold on Widow's Wail yet. I think it is a good card, and I love the surprise aspect. However, in 2nd edition, deck slots are just so tight. It's so hard to justify an attachment right now like that. Like, there's so many other better cards, in my opinion, that are ultimately more effective, cards that replace themselves when you play it. So essentially, Widow's Wail is a one-trick pony. You get to use it once. It's basically like an event. I mean, yes, it'll come back to your hand if the character gets discarded, and it'll give you that nice surprise that one time. But I don't know that that surprise is worth the deck slot to me over an actual super powerful event like Tears or Puts, which I'm sure Marc is playing 3 of in his deck. But I think the Widow's Wail slot could be better suited elsewhere.
With Rematch?
Sure. So I will just. I have no other actions before turning winner.
Okay, so yep, no gold. Let's move on to Clan.
So Marc letting Drogo do some work here. He's slowly whittling away at Joe's board. He's going to have to eat some challenges in return, but it looks like he's willing to make that trade. Maybe he can draw into a third Viserys if he's got it and get rid of that seal. So far, so good. And this being an interesting match, I mean, nobody's really taken control. Oof, that is an interesting decision, Joe. He opts to get rid of the dupe of Tywin. I don't like that. That makes him instantly vulnerable to a put to the sword. I would have much rather see him kill the burned men. Yes, I know he can return the burned men to his hand on his first snow turn, but when you have, especially after putting a double seal on Tywin with 2 power on him and your only other economy, I don't like that decision. Hell, I might have even killed the Hound. You know, I can't speak to the efficacy of the Hound in his deck because I have not played the LanniKraken yet, and that could be vital, but I don't like getting rid of a dupe on Tywin there.
Oppose. Insight.
Insight doing work. Probably the best keyword in the game right now. Get those cards. Now, FFG was very smart in implementing the reserve mechanic in 2nd edition. I love it. It prevents... You know, they tried to solve the draw issue in 1st edition by saying you can't draw more than 3 cards per turn. But then they added a bunch of effects that were adding cards to your hand instead of technically using the semantics of the word draw, which got around that cap. You know, it was reveal and add to hand rather than draw. So people started to abuse it. And with reserve, you know, it completely protects them. So they removed the draw cap, they added reserve, and now it doesn't matter. It sort of prevents them from making accidental design mistakes in the future. You know, there was people, like, I swear this is not an exaggeration, there was people in 1st edition that by the end of the 2nd or 3rd turn would have 40 cards in their hand, like 4-0.
Post.
If you don't believe me, ask somebody. It happened. All right, Marc.
Okay, he's your only standing guy, and you have
Marc
no
is
gold,
now
correct?
pretty knelt out.
Okay, so I'm
But
going
I think
to
he's happy to make the trades that he
military
made this turn. Marc made some good progress,
to
and unfortunately that is going to hurt really bad. I think Joe's going to have to kill Drogo.
which one?
Gotta kill Drogo. Jaime is great, but he's neutered without Drogo.
Drogo.
Good decision.
So then unopposed.
Jaime's annoying, but Drogo affects everybody, not just himself.
I'll kill Viserys and I'll pull one of your seals.
Sure.
Alright, so we made progress towards getting rid of the seal. Meanwhile, Tywin stacks up the renown,
I'm going to power with the Unstealthing Illyrio.
and the power rush has begun.
So that triggers. So unopposed.
That is going to add up
triggers,
very quickly
seal.
if Marc is not careful. He needs to start planning to defend the power challenge.
I guess we move to dominance, which looks like you.
Yes.
Okay.
Alright, now Joe's sitting at 8 power, in closing distance with the renown of the double renown potential of Tywin and Theon. So now We're in the mid-game, approaching end-game. Marc needs to be super careful, play very defensively on the power challenge. Can't quite see how many cards he has in his hand. I'm trying to remember what the other plots Marc has. Is we know he's playing Marched. We know he's playing Counting Coppers. He's already used his double Noble. I don't know that we've seen Wildfire from Marc yet. But now would be a good time to throw it if he's got it. You can't really wait much longer in a situation like this. Alright, we have a Calm over Westeros versus a Calling the Banners.
Okay, who is going to be going first?
That's an excellent question.
See, I like the fact that Marc threw high initiative here so he could dictate the pace of the round by choosing who goes first.
I still think I want to try to go first.
Alrighty, we both
But
think that.
it's really not helping him all that much in getting the board under control.
I have to choose who
And
it is.
that, I think, is a
I'm
mistake.
going to say...
But if he's not running Wildfire, I don't know what else he could have thrown here to get the board back under control. I think we also know he had Winds of Winter, but even a 2-claim military challenge really isn't going to hurt Joe all that much. You know, he's already got 5 characters. He's going to marshal more. This would have been a prime spot for Wildfire, in my opinion.
So I get 4 more?
But honestly, Wildfire may not have really even done enough. Joe has set himself up for a nice little dash to the finish here. If he can put down an Asha, this game is going to be all but over, regardless of what Marc does.
You've told 9?
No Dany's out, no Dragons out to scare the Dracarys. It looks like Marc's deck is sort of not giving him the tools that he needs. That is really what he would need to do to get back into this, is get a 2-claim military off with a Dracarys on the side.
4.
But if your deck doesn't give you the cards,
He
there's
loves
not
that
much you
thing.
can do.
It really does.
He got it in our first game, too.
So Crown of Gold gets Theon again. Unfortunately, I really don't think that's going to matter. And Marc had to invest a lot of money in that Crown of Gold. And it does get rid of one major character, but Joe still hasn't marshaled yet. And he's going to be able to get out plenty. All of that does is get rid of a stealth off the board that Joe can easily replace.
Sure.
Okay, so we do like to see that.
Okay.
That will allow Marc some psychological advantage over Joe. He has dollars left and he has a dragon standing. So now Joe does have to think a little bit harder about his challenge execution. We just need to hope that Marc does not actually attack with that dragon.
Time and money mission.
That's what he does. Funds the war. Okay, let's get that started.
He dupes the Hound. And Jaime. So, arguably just as good as Theon. We now have a non-kneeling character with Renown to replace the Power Rush piece that he lost in Theon. That is a tough, tough spot. This LanniKraken deck is just impressive. Just when you think you might have a game plan to beat it, it just has piece after piece after piece. I love it. Well done, boys. You know, if you look at the card for card advantage that the board state is right now,
I know.
you have the best card for Joe is Tywin.
I think I have this
Best
in there.
card for
I'm
Marc
sure
is
it's somewhere
Jaime.
down there.
Then you have Joe's Jaime probably versus Marc's Illyrio. And then after that, you know, it's really not a comparison.
Military.
The other three, the Hound and Pycelle and the Burnmen, are way better than Marc's three, the Dragon and the Reducers.
2 in hand, he's a 7.
Jorah is really... I like Jorah to close for mid to end game. I don't really like him out too early. Because he is good for defense, but he's going to get discarded if you get him out too early, which isn't really a problem if you run more than if you run 3 copies of him or even 2 copies in your deck. I don't play a lot of Targ, but I've been told you should just generally ignore his downside and just swing away with him and use him until he gets discarded anyways, and just think of the power that's on him as disposable and not really part of your win condition, so that it doesn't hurt when you lose him. But I've been playing mainly Lannister and Greyjoy so far, until my favorite house sort of which is unfortunately down in the dumps right now. Until Martel gets filled out and the control theme comes back, that is where I will gravitate. But I don't have a lot of experience playing Targ right now. There's not a whole lot of reason to not play Lannister. If you guys remember, 100% of the people in the top 8 of this 55-person tournament was either main house Lannister or banner to Lannister. There's no reason really not to run them. They're just so good. And that's not to say I'm complaining. I don't think they're overpowered. I don't think that's anything wrong. I think it is just indicative of people figured out how to do well with them. And as more cards are released and the meta shifts, people will start teching against Lannister's strengths. And Lannister will fall out of favor. It's sort of just the natural evolution of the global meta of Game of Thrones. Which is why I love it. It is a living, breathing entity that you really need to pay attention to it on a daily basis. Otherwise, you will miss something. You can't really show up to a tournament and expect to do well unless you've done a lot of research ahead of time.
7, 11, 15.
You know, I have not asked any of the members of the Brotherhood how they went about developing this deck, but I can guarantee you they spent a lot of time on it. This is not something they threw together the night before the tournament.
I have no reactions to winning.
I guess we're going to clean.
And if it is, I don't even know what to say.
The Berenbach.
Renowned betrayal.
You know, I suppose there's a chance that could happen on a luck scale, but
Can I just read him real quick? Sure. In case it comes up later. I think
this is a game that will pay you back for the effort that you put into it,
I just wanted to check
time-wise, so
He'll die
I suppose
before
it's
he gets
possible
to
somebody
it.
could stumble onto a deck like that, but I don't think that's the case. I think these guys knew what they were doing. I think they spent significant amount of time building and testing it against everything they could think of, and when they couldn't find a deck to beat it, they decided to play it. And that is how the playtest process works. And they did it well.
these are your only 2 open guys. Oh, we have an annoying one.
God bless you. Everybody likes to do a little challenge math.
I will oppose the power challenge with Mr. Targ. Yeah. Yes.
A little indecisiveness there.
I have no reactions.
No.
Tywin sitting with 5 power. Joe sitting at 9 total.
Okay.
The dragon is still standing.
Do you have any actions before my
I
first
hope to
challenge?
see Joe do a power challenge here with the Hound.
I do.
You do not?
Obviously, we will see a military challenge from Jamie as well.
I've got 12.
Oh, unless I just talked over it and they had already done all their challenges, I suppose. So Joe up to 10 power. So we are in the end game now. So I don't know if there is an official definition of early, mid, and late game, but I generally feel if both players are under 5 power, it is early game. Once both players or a player has hit 10 power, you are in mid game. And once your opponent is above 10 power or you are above 10 power, you are in end game. And that is sort of how I segregate those terms in my head. I don't know if that is actually correct or not,
Trading.
but that is how I go.
Okay.
Looks like we have a trading with the Pentoshi versus a first snow. So glancing at the board, that is going to devastate Marc. And it's gonna hit Joe as well, but Joe will obviously be in a better position with the Tywin on board. He can opt to save the Hound. Very critical decision on first player here, so you understand why they're taking the time. This is the finals.
You can keep going first. I'll get my 3 gold.
That is an interesting decision,
Yep.
but I do like it. I think Joe realizes he's in control, and by forcing Marc to go first, he's putting the pressure on Marc to make decisions with less information than Joe will have when he's making his decisions. You know, he's not in danger of losing the game this turn. Marc does have a 6 power. You can close from 6, but you'll need to have cards that Marc is likely to not be running in a joust, like Superior Claim and such. You know, Lady Sansa's Rose, that obviously is not applicable here. So Joe realizes he can sort of sit back, let Marc make mistakes, and then sort of try to mop up the mess. Marc is going to be forced to play defensively because he knows Joe can close here. So unless Marc is careful, this game will be over.
Okay,
He can't really afford to do challenges, actually, because he's got to be able to defend what Joe is doing.
4 to play Newly Made Lord. No targets for reaction. 4 golds up, and we'll move to challenge.
Sure.
Okay, so he's going to get saved with the Duke. These two are going to come
So
back.
board is clean. 2 power gone for Marc on that play. And now Joe is in complete control. It's all formality now, unfortunately, for Marc. But again, you cannot not root for Joe in this spot. You can't. If anybody there says that Joe does not deserve this win based on the deck and the way he played today, they're an asshole. Period. Interestingly, I don't know that I've seen a Gregor from the LanniKraken deck. I wonder, maybe, I can't really remember if we saw it in the previous games. I know they published the list. I did not look at it because I just haven't had time to play since this tournament. I've been very busy. But I don't know if Gregor was in their list or not.
Trigger seal.
Yep.
Renown.
So, as we approach the end, I want to take the time to thank everybody for joining me for this tournament. It was a blast to provide commentary for all the games. I look forward to capturing as many games as I can at Dance with Dragons. I hope to see you all there. Again, if you see me and I don't know you, please come introduce yourself. Especially if it's your first tournament. I will buy you a beer across the street at Rattle and Hum. If I have any money left. As long as there's not like 60 of you. We can play a casual game and have a chat. I love talking about this game. If that's not patently obvious by me doing commentary for hours and hours for fun. I think Joe's just taking a little extra time to make sure he's not, taking his win for granted here, and that he's not stumbling into something that he's missing, because I mean, I have seen people overlook in situations like this and forget that the game isn't already won. Now, let's say hypothetically Joe makes a brain fart and forgets about like a put to the sword or something. Tywin dying makes this an even game instantly with all that power sitting on him. So maybe that's why he's just taking his time. He doesn't want to stumble into a roadblock here. Maybe he's just enjoying the moment, as he should. He earned it. Bye-bye, Jamie.
Okay, Renown.
And now it's all just a formality.
Intrigue with Jamie.
We'll friend with Illyrio.
Okay.
I will, as an action, ambition would as well.
I have an action by that.
Yep.
Defend it with will as well, the man says. Cards, please.
8.
Really
care. There you go. Widow's Will of your own.
Yes, sir.
All right. You will win.
Okay, claim.
Oh boy. It's painful watching this.
Yeah.
There you go.
just because I feel Marc's pain.
Power.
I believe he won a tournament early in the season, but
Seems good.
I know what it feels like to lose a game in a major situation.
And I will defend.
I want to say I came in
I'm
second
going.
place 8 times before I finally
I'm
won a
going
tournament,
to-
and it sucks. You never really forget your losses. If you take this game seriously and you love it as much as I do, it's sort of like if you play poker. You never forget your bad beats. Not to say or suggest that this game is a bad beat, but when you invest a lot of time and emotional energy into a game,
I win the power.
it does sting when you lose. I think I can
And looks like
literally tell you step by step every major loss I've ever had to this day, even dating back to 2011. But the good news is you learn from your losses, and the mistakes that you make that cost you games, I guarantee you will never make them again, because they will be sealed into your brain forever. Alright guys, they are wrapping this up here. Thank you so much for joining me for the Connecticut Regional. I look forward to doing commentary for Dance of Dragons with you.
Yes, sir.
I love you guys very much,
You too.
and may
Nice
you always claim your 15th power.
Yeah, JD has renowned military challenge. Well done.
Oh, does he? Hot fire. I'm terrible.
You won last round anyways.
Well done, JD.
I always mess up the
This
stupid
guy was in
things.
the finals.
Great game, man.
Jesus Christ. No.
Whatever, Jamie doesn't care about power, dude. He doesn't give a
true
shit.
at
He just wants to kill people.
When you have 14, yeah, that's certainly a big difference from 13.
I swear I'm playing a lot of Milk of the Poppy.
Do you really have Danny, or were you bullshitting me?
No, I have 3 Danny.
You're kidding me.
What?
Yep.
No one else saw them either. Oh my god.
Danny, Milk.
I really thought you were gonna milk Tywin on the early turns. You kept like fingering one
That's what I
gold,
thought
and then a
too.
loyalist would come out, and then a Viserys would come out.
I had the idea, I just didn't have the card to play. That is a problem.
Represents the North.
Great game, man.
Dude.